The sun stood still over the village of Umudike on the day the impossible happened. Birds stopped singing in the great Iroko tree. The wind held its breath. Even the noisy goats in the market square fell silent. Everyone watched with their mouths open, catching flies. Chief Obiora, the highest title holder in the land and father to the prince, was on his knees. He was not kneeling for a god. He was not kneeling for the shrine. He was bowing his head to the ground before Adama. Adama, the village wretch. Adama, whose wrapper was held together by knots and prayers. Adama, who ate the crumbs that fell from the tables of others. Beside them, the village guards held heavy ropes. The ropes were not for a thief. They were binding the hands of Lologbo. Lologbo, the richest woman in Umudike, the leader of the women's council, the woman whose walking stick was carved from ivory and whose neck was heavy with coral beads. Lologbo was screaming, her expensive lace dragging in the red dust. "This is a mistake. Do you not know who I am?" But the guards did not care. The villagers whispered, a sound like dry leaves in a storm. "Is that not Lolo? Why is the chief bowing to the rat girl? Che, today the tortoise has truly fallen into the pit." Hey, sorry to interrupt your listening for just a moment. If this story is speaking to you so far, I'd be really grateful if you subscribe and support the channel. It helps me keep creating more stories like this for you. Thank you. To understand how a girl with no shoes brought a giant to her knees, we must go back. We must go back to the beginning of the suffering. Umudike was a village of beauty and red earth. It was a place where palm trees touched the sky. In the mornings, the air smelled of wood smoke and roasting yams. In the evenings, the sound of the Ojene gong called men to meetings. But for Adama, Umudike was a prison without walls. She was 20 years old, with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that held too much sorrow. She was an orphan, left behind when the great sickness took her parents. She had no brothers to fight for her. She had no uncles to speak her name in the gathering of men. She lived in a small hut at the edge of the evil forest, where the roof leaked when the heavens cried. Then there was Lologbo. Lologbo was the wife of a wealthy yam merchant. She was beautiful, but her beauty was like a painted masquerade, fearful to behold close up. She walked as if the earth owed her a debt. She was the head of the Umuada, the daughters of the lineage. Whatever Lologbo said in Umudike became law. If she said rain was dry, the women would agree. If she said the sun was cold, the men would nod. Adama cleaned Lologbo's compound every morning for a miserable wage of 3 cups of garri a week. One fateful morning, Adama arrived at the compound gate. The sun was just waking up. "Good morning, Mama," Adama greeted, kneeling in the dust. Lologbo stepped out, chewing on a stick of licorice. She looked at Adama like one looks at a pile of goat dung. "Why is your shadow touching my gate?" Lolo asked. "I came to sweep, Mama." Lologbo spat the licorice stick on Adama's foot. "Then sweep," she hissed, "and pray your bad luck does not infect my children." Adama swallowed her pain. She did not know that the storm was just gathering. She did not know that her tears would soon become a river that would drown the wicked. It was a Tuesday morning, the day of the Afom market. The compound of Lolo Ugo was bustling with activity. Servants were rushing about, carrying baskets of yams and tins of oil. Adama was bent double, her short broom scratching against the hard earth. Her back ached. She had not eaten since yesterday morning. Her stomach rumbled, a quiet protest against her poverty. Mama Nkechi, a neighbor, was passing by with a bucket of water. Mama Chinedu sat on a bench nearby, plaiting her daughter's hair.
They watched Adama walk with pity in their eyes. Lolo Ugo stepped out of her main hut. She was wearing a new George wrapper, shining blue and gold. She saw Adama sweeping near the cooking pot. The pot contained leftover bitterleaf soup from the night before. Adama's sweeping had raised a tiny puff of dust. It was barely visible, but for Lolo Ugo, it was a crime. "Stop!" Lolo screamed. The sound tore through the morning peace. Adama froze, the broom shaking in her hand. "Mama, you possess a spirit of destruction," Lolo shouted, marching forward. "I was only sweeping, Mama," Adama whispered. "Sweeping? You are trying to poison my family with dust." "No, Mama, I swear by my chi." "Do not mention your chi here. Your chi is asleep." Lolo kicked the broom out of Adama's hand. It flew across the compound and landed in the gutter. "Pick it up with your teeth," Lolo commanded. Adama looked at the woman. She looked at the gutter, wet with wastewater. "Mama, please." "I said pick it up." Adama trembled. She lowered her head. Slowly, painfully, she crawled to the gutter. She bent her face low. The smell of stagnant water filled her nose. She picked up the dirty broom with her teeth. Mama Nkechi turned her face away. "This is too much," Mama Nkechi whispered to the air. "Hush," Mama Chinedu warned. "Do you want Lolo to ban your husband from the market council?" Adama stood up, the taste of dirt in her mouth. Tears gathered in her eyes, but did not fall. She would not give Lolo that satisfaction. Lolo Ugo laughed. "Good dog. Now get out of my sight. No Gary for you today." Adama walked away, her head bowed. Her heart felt like a heavy stone in her chest. The sun beat down on her, indifferent to her shame. She had lost her dignity for 3 cups of Gary, and now she had lost the Gary too.
3 days passed. Thirst was a fire in Adama's throat. She took her clay pot, the only one she owned that wasn't cracked. She walked the long path to the village stream. The stream was the life of Umudike. Women gathered there to wash clothes, fetch water, and share news. The air was cool under the bamboo trees. Adama arrived and waited for her turn. There was a line of women. When they saw her, they shifted their basins. They created a space around her, as if poverty was a disease that could jump from skin to skin. Adama stepped into the cool water. She dipped her pot. The water gurgled as it filled the vessel. Just as she lifted the heavy pot to her head, a shadow fell over her. It was Lolo Ugo. Lolo was not fetching water. Her servant did that. She had come to inspect the washing of her expensive laces. "Who told this one she can drink from our stream?" Lolo asked loudly. The chatter of the women died down. "The stream belongs to everyone, Mama," Adama said softly. "Everyone? Are you people?" Lolo waded into the water, her heavy anklets splashing. "A person is someone who contributes to the village. What do you contribute? Lice?" The women laughed nervously. They had to laugh. To not laugh was to make oneself an enemy. "I just want water, Mama." "You would dirty it for the rest of us." Lolo Ugo reached out her hand. She pushed the clay pot resting on Adama's head. It was a quick, violent shove. The pot crashed down. It hit a rock in the stream. Bam! The sound was like a gunshot. The pot shattered into 100 useless pieces. The water Adama had fetched washed over her, soaking her torn wrapper. She stood there, wet and shivering. Her only pot was gone. "Oops!" Lolo Ugo sneered. "My hand slipped." "Aye!
The pot is broken, no, a young girl whispered. Lolo is wicked, an old woman muttered under her breath, scrubbing a shot harder. Wetin concern you? Her neighbor hushed her. Face your work. Adama looked at the shards of clay. That pot had belonged to her mother. It was the last thing she had of her parents. Her chest tightened, squeezing the breath from her lungs. She wanted to scream. She wanted to strike the woman in the gold beads, but she did nothing. She bent down and picked up a sharp piece of the clay. She held it for a moment, then dropped it. She turned and walked out of the stream, water dripping from her rags. She had no water. She had no pot. She only had the sound of Lolo Ugo's laughter chasing her up the hill.
A week later, the harmattan winds began to blow. The air was dry and dusty. The nights were cold enough to crack the skin. Adama needed firewood. Without fire, she could not boil herbs for her cough. She could not warm her cold hut. She went into the communal bush, far from the farms. She walked for hours, her bare feet bleeding on thorns. She found a fallen cashew tree. It was a blessing. Dry, solid wood that would burn slow and hot. She spent the whole afternoon chopping it with a dull machete. She tied the wood into a large bundle. It was heavy, a burden that made her knees shake. She balanced it on her head and began the trek home. As she passed the junction near the market, Lolo Ugo's voice stopped her. "Thief!" Adama stopped. Her neck was stiff from the weight. "I am not a thief, Mama." Lolo Ugo was sitting under a mango tree with her friends, drinking palm wine. "That wood," Lolo pointed, "it is from my husband's land." "No, Mama. It is from the communal bush, past the stream." "Are you calling me a liar?" Lolo stood up. Her friends, women with fat cheeks and cruel eyes, stood up too. "She is calling Lolo a liar, oh," one friend said, clapping her hands. "This rat has grown wings," another added. "Drop it," Lolo commanded. "Mama, please. The night is cold. I have no fire." "Did I ask for your weather report? Drop it." Lolo signaled to two young men lounging nearby. They were touts who did Lolo's dirty work for coins. They stepped forward and shoved Adama. The bundle of wood fell from her head. It scattered across the red dust. Hours of work, hours of sweat, gone in a second. "Take it to my kitchen," Lolo told the boys. "Yes, Mama." The boys gathered the wood. Adama stood empty-handed. Her hands shook uncontrollably. "You are wicked," Adama whispered. It was the first time she had spoken back. Lolo walked up to her. Thwack! Her hand connected with Adama's cheek. The sound was loud. The pain was sharp and hot. "If you speak again, I will cut off your tongue," Lolo whispered. Adama held her cheek. The market women looked away. A man selling yams shook his head but said nothing. God is watching, Adama thought. She turned and walked into the gathering darkness. The cold wind beat through her thin wrapper, but the cold in her heart was deeper. It was the season of the New Yam Festival. The market was full of noise and color. Adama had nothing to sell, but she went to the market to trade labor. She would carry baskets for traders in exchange for a few peppers. She was carrying a heavy basket of tomatoes for a trader named Mama Obi. Lolo Ugo was at the next store, buying expensive lace. Lolo saw Adama walking. She saw that Mama Obi had given Adama
a small smoked fish, as a thank you. Jealousy flared in Lolo's chest. Why should this rag have fish when she's nothing? Lolo walked past Adama. She brushed against her. "My purse!" Lolo suddenly screamed. "My purse is gone!" The market froze. "Thief! Thief!" Lolo pointed a manicured finger at Adama. "She took it. I felt her hand." The crowd swarmed. In the village, the cry of thief is a death sentence. Men grabbed Adama. "I didn't take anything," Adama cried, dropping the basket of tomatoes. Red fruit smashed on the ground. "Search her!" Lolo shouted. Rough hands grabbed Adama. They tore at her wrapper. They checked the folds of her cloth. They found the smoked fish. "See!" Lolo shouted. "She stole fish too." "Mama Obi gave it to me," Adama pleaded. Everyone looked at Mama Obi. Mama Obi looked at Lolo Ogo. She saw the threat in Lolo's eyes. She saw the power Lolo held. I did not give it to her," Mama Obi lied, looking at the ground. A gasp went through the crowd. "Witch! Thief!" Someone threw a rotten orange. It hit Adama on the shoulder. Others joined in. Debt, pure water sachets, insults. "Strip her!" a young man shouted. "No, please," Adama begged, clutching her rags. An elder stepped in. "Leave her," the elder said, "but take the fish and ban her from the market for a month." They snatched the fish from her hand. They pushed her out of the market square. "Go and die," Lolo shouted after her. "Now God go judge you," a voice from the crowd shouted, but no one knew who. Adama stumbled onto the road. Her body ached, but the betrayal of Mama Obi hurt more than the blows. She had lost her means of survival. She had been branded a thief. The festival of the maiden spirits approached. Every woman in the village was required to help cook. It was tradition. Even the poorest woman had a role to play. Adama washed her hands and feet. She put on her cleanest head tie. She wanted to belong. She walked to the village square where the great iron pots were boiling. The smell of egusi and pounded yam filled the air. Women were laughing, pounding pepper, stirring soup. Adama approached the group peeling yams. "Let me help," she offered gently. The conversation stopped. Lolo Ogo emerged from the smoke of the fire. She held a large wooden spoon like a scepter. "You," Lolo asked, "you want to touch the food of the elders?" "It is my duty, Mama." "Your duty is to stay away." Lolo turned to the other women. "Do you know where her hands have been? She sleeps with pigs. She eats from the dustbin. If she touches this yam, the spirits will be angry. We will all get sick." The women murmured. Fear is a powerful tool. "Go away, Adama," one woman said gently but firmly. "We don't want trouble." "But I am a daughter of this soil," Adama said, her voice trembling. "You are a daughter of nothing," Lolo spat. Lolo scooped up a ladle of hot water from the yam pot. She splashed it near Adama's feet. Steam rose from the earth. "Next time it will be on your face." Adama backed away. She watched the other women walking together. She watched the unity she was denied. She turned and ran. She ran until her lungs burned. She collapsed under a banana tree, far from the festivities. She could hear the drums starting. She could smell the feast she would not taste. She was an outcast in her own home. The rainy season came with violence. The sky turned black in the middle of the day. Thunder shook the foundations of the earth. Adama was caught on the road, returning from a futile search for work. The rain came down like stones. It was a deluge. She ran to the community hall, a large open structure with a thin roof. Many villagers had gathered there for shelter. Adama squeezed into a corner, shivering. Her teeth chattered loud enough to be heard. Lolo Ogo was there, sitting on a dry mat, surrounded by her sycophants. She saw Adama dripping in the corner. "Why does this place smell of wet dog?" Lolo asked loudly. She looked directly at Adama. "You, out!" "Mama, the rain," Adama pointed outside. Trees were bending. The wind was howling. "I said out. You are crowding us. Your bad luck will bring lightning." "Please, Mama, just until it stops." "Boys," Lolo called to the village youth, "throw this rubbish out." Two young men, laughing, grabbed Adama's arms. They dragged her to the edge of the shelter. They pushed her into the mud. Adama fell face down in the slush. The rain beat her back. Inside the shelter, some people laughed. Others looked down, pretending to check their phones or fix their wrappers. "Make una see this yeye woman. She thinks she's one of us." Adama lay in the mud for a long time. She let the rain wash over her. She wondered if it would be better if the lightning just took her. It would be faster than this slow death. But she stood up. She was covered in red mud. She looked like a spirit of the earth. She walked home in the storm, her head high. The rain could wash her skin, but it could not wash away her resolve. News came to Mudike. The king wanted to choose a representative for the Women's Council. It was a position of honor. Adama's mother had held that position before she died. By right, Adama should be considered. But Lolo Ogo had other plans. She called a meeting of the elders. "We need someone of noble blood," Lolo argued. "Adama is of the lineage," an old chief said. "Her mother was strong." "Adama?" Lolo laughed. "That mad girl?" "She is not mad," the chief argued weakly. "She talks to herself. She eats from the gutter. Do you want a mad woman representing Umudike?" Lolo beckoned to her own daughter, Chidima. Chidima was plump and well-fed, but known for being lazy. "My daughter is groomed. She is clean. She is rich." "But the seat is for the most hard-working," the chief noted. "Who works harder than me?" Lolo challenged. "And my daughter is my reflection." Lolo turned to the crowd. "If you choose Adama, I will stop funding the Harvest Festival." The threat hung in the air. Money spoke louder than tradition. The elders nodded. "We choose Chidima," they announced. Adama watched from the shadows of the meeting hall. She saw her mother's legacy handed to a girl who had never held a hoe. She saw her birthright sold for a bag of rice and a promise of festival money. She felt a piece of her soul wither. They had taken her food. They had taken her dignity. Now they had taken her name. This was the blow that was meant to kill. Lolo Ugo's son, Emeka, fell sick. It was malaria, common and treatable, but Lolo saw an opportunity. She ran into the village square, tearing her head tie. "Witchcraft! Witchcraft!" she screamed. The village gathered. "Who is doing this?" they asked. "It is her." Lolo pointed a shaking finger toward the edge of the forest, toward Adama's hut. "I saw her in a dream. She was eating my son's flesh." In Mudike, a dream accusation was serious business. The mob marched to Adama's hut. They dragged her out of her sleep. "Witch, confess!" "I did nothing," Adama cried. "I only pray." "She is sucking his blood to get youth," Lolo shrieked. "Burn her hut," someone shouted. "Yes, smoke out the evil." A torch was lit. Adama watched in horror as fire touched her thatched roof. The dry grass caught instantly. Flames licked the night sky. "My things! My mother's wrapper!" Adama tried to run in. A man held her back. "Leave it, witch!" She watched her home burn. She watched the smoke rise. She had lost the roof over her head. She stood in her night wrapper, shivering in the glow of the fire. "If my son dies," Lolo whispered in her ear, "you will follow him." The villagers left her there, alone, homeless, branded a witch.
Adama moved to an abandoned shed near the refuse dump. No one spoke to her. If she walked on the road, people crossed to the other side. If she looked at a child, the mother would cover the child's eyes. She was a ghost in the land of the living. Hunger was her constant companion. She ate wild berries and scraps she found at night. She became thin. Her collarbones stuck out like coat hangers. Her eyes were large and haunted in her sunken face. One evening, she heard music. A wedding was happening. Lolo Ugo was dancing, throwing money. Adama watched from the bushes. She saw the joy. She saw the community. She realized she was truly alone. A stray dog came up to her. It sniffed her foot. Then it turned and walked away. Even the dog rejected her. Adama sat on the cold earth. She did not cry. She had no tears left. She was a hollow shell. "God," she whispered, "are you still there?" There was no answer. Only the sound of the wind and the distant drums of the wedding she could not attend.
The moon was a thin sliver in the sky, sharp as a knife. It was the hour when spirits walked and mortals slept. Adama could not sleep. Hunger gnawed at her belly, but the pain in her spirit was sharper. She walked to the great Iroko tree at the center of the village crossroads. The tree was ancient. Its roots were deep, like the history of her people. She fell to her knees on the hard roots. She pressed her forehead to the rough bark. "Chukwu okiki abiyama," she whispered, "God of the universe." Her voice cracked. "They call me a witch. They call me a thief. They took my mother's pot. They burnt my father's house." Tears finally came. Hot, searing tears that burned tracks through the dust on her face. "I do not ask for riches, Lord. I do not ask for Lolo's death." She raised her hands to the black sky. Her hands were calloused, shaking, empty. "I ask for one person, just one. Send me one person who sees me. Someone to say, 'Adama, you are innocent.' Just one voice, God, or let me die tonight." She wept until her throat was raw. "I cannot fight anymore. My strength is gone." Exhaustion took her. She curled up between the roots of the giant tree. She closed her eyes. In her sleep, she saw a light. It was not the sun. It was a face, a kind face. She slept a dreamless sleep, the first in many years. The next morning, the sun rose with a strange golden hue. Adama woke up stiff. A man was standing over her. She scrambled back, fear gripping her throat. "Please, don't hit me," she cried, covering her face. The man did not move. He was young, perhaps 30. He wore the ragged clothes of a palm wine tapper. His hat was old, and his machete was dull. But his eyes were bright, too bright. "Peace, daughter of the soil," he said. His voice was deep, like the rumble of the earth. "Who are you?" Adama asked, clutching her rags. "They call me Obina. I tap wine for the celebration." "Go away, Obina. I am cursed. If Lolo sees you with me, she will destroy you." Obina smiled. It was a smile that warmed the air. "I know Lolo Ugo, and I know you, Adama." Adama froze. "How do you know my name?" "I know that you swept the compound while hungry. I know she broke your mother's pot. I know she burnt your hut." "Are you a spirit?" she whispered. "I am a man who sees."
Obina said. He reached into his one bag. He pulled out a roasted yam and a piece of fish. Eat. Adama hesitated. It is not poisoned, he laughed gently. She took it. She ate like a starving animal. He watched her with sadness and respect. Why? She asked between bites. Because the ear that listens to the ground hears the footsteps of the ants, Obina said in riddles. Tomorrow, Lolo Ugo plans her final blow. She will accuse you of stealing the king's royal bead. Adama stopped chewing. The royal bead? The punishment is death. Yes, she has already planted it. Where? In the bundle of rags you use for a pillow. Adama's blood ran cold. She stood up to run to her shed. Wait, Obina commanded. I must throw it away. No, leave it. Are you mad? They will kill me. Obina stepped closer. He took her trembling hands. His hands were strong, not like a tapper's hands. They were smooth. Do not touch it. Let them find it. Why? Because Obina's eyes flashed with fire. Tomorrow, the hunter becomes the hunted. Trust me. Why should I trust you? Because you prayed for one person to believe you. I am here. He turned and walked into the bush. He did not look back. Adama stood alone, with the taste of yam in her mouth and a dangerous hope in her heart.
Adama returned to her shed. Her heart beat like a drum. She looked at her bundle of rags. She felt the urge to check, to search. But she remembered Obina's eyes. She sat and waited. Across the village, in the palace of the king, another scene was playing out. Obina, the tapper, was not in the bush. He was in the servants' quarters of the palace, but he was not resting. He was speaking to a young boy, the king's servant. Did you see her do it? Obina asked. The boy trembled. Lolo Ogo said she would cut off my ears if I spoke. And what will the king do if he finds out you lied to him? The boy started to cry. She gave me money. She told me to leave the bead on the windowsill where she could reach it. Obina nodded. And did you see her put it in Adama's bag? I followed her, the boy whispered. I saw her sneak to the refuse dump. She put the bead inside the rags. Good, Obina said. You have done evil, boy, but tomorrow you can do good. I am afraid. Fear the truth more than you fear a woman, Obina said. Tomorrow, when I signal, you will speak. Back in the shed, Adama realized something. The fear was gone. For the first time in years, she felt light. She washed her face with the little water she had. She sat straight. Let them come, she said to the empty air. Tomorrow, the world will see. As the sun set, the village crier beat his gong. Gome, gome, gome. All citizens, gather at the square tomorrow morning. The king's royal bead is missing. A great crime has been committed. Adama closed her eyes. The stage was set. The sun was high in the sky, casting no shadows. The village square was packed. Every man, woman, and child in Umodike was there. The dust rose from hundreds of feet. Under the great Iloko tree sat the king, Igwe and his cabinet of elders. They wore red caps and held staffs of authority. Their faces were grim. To steal the royal bead was an abomination. It meant the ancestors were offended. Lolo Ogo arrived with an entourage of singing women. She wore a lace of blinding white. Her head tie was tied in a style called on top of the world. She fanned herself, looking bold and important. She sat on a carved stool brought by her servant. Then Adama arrived. She walked alone. No one walked with her. She wore her faded wrapper, washed clean. She did not look at the ground today. She looked ahead. Mama Nkechi saw her and nudged her neighbor. See her face. She does not look afraid. A thief has no shame, the neighbor replied. The crowd parted for Adama, leaving a wide circle of isolation around her. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. The king stood up. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. People of Umudike, the king's voice boomed. The bead of authority, the heart of our throne, is missing. A gasp went through the crowd. We have consulted the oracle, the king continued. The oracle says the thief is here. Lolo Ugo stood up. Igwe, she hailed, may you live forever. Speak, Lolo, the king nodded. We do not need an oracle to tell us where the death lies, Lolo said, her voice carrying to the back of the crowd. She turned to Adama. Everyone knows who the desperate one is. Everyone knows who eats from the trash. Name the person, the king commanded. Adama, Lolo pointed. The witch, the thief. I saw her lurking near the palace yesterday. I was nowhere near the palace, Adama said quietly. Her voice was soft, but in the silence, it was loud. Shut up, Lolo screamed. You want to lie to the king? Search her, Lolo commanded the guards. Search her filthy rags. 2 guards stepped forward. They grabbed Adama's bundle, the one Obina had told her not to touch. They dumped the contents on the ground. Old clothes, a broken comb, a dried piece of yam. And there, glittering in the dust, the royal red bead. The crowd screamed, Abomination! Kill her! Stunning! Stun her! Lolo Ugo smiled. It was a pure victory. You see, Igwe, I told you, she is a snake. Adama stood still. Her heart hammered, but she looked for Obina. Where was he? Adama, the king said, his voice cold. Do you have anything to say before we pass judgment? I did not steal it, Adama said. The evidence is here, the king shouted. Evidence can be planted. A deep voice cut through the noise. From the back of the crowd, the tapper stepped forward. Obina pushed through the people. Who is this madman? Lolo laughed. Get him out. Let him speak, the king said, his eyes narrowing. Obina walked into the circle. He looked at Lolo Ugu. I am a tapper, Obina said. I live in the trees. I see what happens when people think no one is watching. You are drunk, Lolo sneered. Am I? Obina turned to the king. Igwe, ask Lolo Ugu where she was yesterday at sunset. I was in my house praying, Lolo lied. Liar, Obina said calmly. The crowd gasped. No one called Lolo a liar. I was up the palm tree behind the refuse dump, Obina continued. I saw a woman in a white lace. She looked like a ghost. She crept to this girl's shed. She took something from her bosom, something red and shiny, and shoved it into the bundle. He is lying. He is Adama's lover, Lolo shrieked. Look at him, a dirty tapper. And look at this, Obina said. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a piece of cloth. It was a strip of white lace, expensive lace. She caught her wrapper on the thorns near the shed. I climbed down and took it. He walked to Lolo Ugu. He held the strip against her expensive white dress. It matched perfectly. A torn edge on her hem was visible. The crowd went deadly silent. That proves nothing, Lolo stammered. My lace tore at home. Then, explain this, Obina said. He whistled. From the crowd, the small palace servant boy stepped forward. He was shaking. Speak, boy, Obina commanded gently. Lolo Ugu paid me, the boy sobbed. She gave me 5,000 naira to leave the bead on the window.
Lolo Ogu's face turned the color of ashes. "You ungrateful rat, I will kill you!" She lunged at the boy. The guards restrained her. The king stood up. His face was thunder. "Lolo Ogu," the name sounded like a curse. "You stole from the throne to frame an orphan?" Lolo Ogu looked around. She saw the market women shaking their heads. She saw the men spitting on the ground. She saw her power evaporating like mist. "It was the devil," she cried, falling to her knees. "I just wanted her gone. She is a blight."
The king raised his staff. "You called her a thief," the king said. "But you are the thief. You called her dead," the king continued. "But your heart is filthy. You burnt her house," the king roared. "Now hear my judgment." "Mercy, Igwe," Lolo begged. "Did you show her mercy?" The king looked at Adama. Adama said nothing. She only looked at Lolo with sad eyes. "Lolo Ugo," the king pronounced, "you are stripped of your title. You are no longer Lolo." "No," she screamed. "You are stripped of your lands. They will be given to the orphan Adama as compensation." "My lands!" "And for the crime of stealing the royal bead, you are banished." "Banished?" "Leave Umudike before the sun touches the hills. If we see you after sunset, the masquerades will deal with you." The guards ripped the coral beads from Lolo's neck. They took her ivory staff. They took her head tie. She stood there, hair messy, dress torn, stripped of her glory. The crowd parted. But this time, they did not part in respect. They parted in disgust. "Go!" the market women shouted. "Wicked soul! Go and meet your bad luck!" Lolo Ugo stumbled away. She walked the same path she had forced Adama to walk, alone, shamed, broken. She disappeared into the bush, weeping, never to be seen in Umudike again. Then Obina turned to the king. He took off his ragged hat. He took off the dirty tapas shirt. Underneath, he wore a fine singlet. He stood tall. "Father," he said to the king. The crowd gasped louder than before. "Prince Emeka! The prince returned. He was the tapa?" The king smiled. "My son, you have done well. You have found the truth." Prince Emeka walked to Adama. She was trembling. "I told you," he smiled. "The hunter becomes the hunted." He took her hand. "Adama, you passed the test. You kept your heart pure in the fire." He bowed to her. The king bowed, and the whole village fell to their knees. That evening, the village was alive with a different kind of fire. Bonfires were lit, not to burn huts, but to roast yams. Adama sat in the palace courtyard. Servants brought her water in a silver basin. They washed the dust from her feet gently. Mama Obi, the trader, who had lied about the fish, came crawling on her knees. "Forgive me, Adama. Fear made me a beast." Adama looked at the woman. She remembered the pain, but she also remembered the peace of the Iroko tree. "Stand up, Mama," Adama said softly. "Hunger makes people do strange things. I forgive you." Mama Obi wept and hugged Adama's knees. The village saw this and marveled. A queen who forgives is a queen who rules forever. 6 months later, the harvest festival returned. Umudike was unrecognizable. Adama lived in Lolo Ugo's former compound, but the gates were always open. She had turned the large barns into a feeding center for the poor. No child in Umudike went to bed hungry. Adama was no longer thin. Her skin glowed like fresh palm oil. She wore a wrapper of deep green, the color of life. Prince Emeka was by her side. They were to be married at the next new moon. As Adama walked through the market,
The women did not silence themselves. "Our mother," they cheered, "the one who brings rain." She stopped at the stream, the same stream where her pot was broken. She saw a young girl struggling with a heavy bucket. The girl was dressed in rags, just as Adama once was. Adama stepped into the water. Her expensive sandals got wet, but she didn't care. She lifted the bucket for the girl. "Thank you, Mama," the girl whispered, eyes wide. "You are strong," Adama told her. "Remember, your current situation is not your final destination." As for Lolo Ugo, travelers said they saw a woman in a distant market, begging for bread, fighting dogs for scraps. Some said she was mad. Others said she was simply reaping the harvest she had planted.
The lesson to be learned from this story is deep like the river. Lesson 1. About wickedness. Wickedness is like smoke. You cannot hide it forever. Lolo Ugo thought her power would protect her, but the evil she planned for Adama became the trap that caught her. As the elders say, the insect that eats the vegetable is inside the vegetable. Lesson 2. About perseverance. When you are going through hell, keep walking. Adama suffered, but she did not become bitter. Her tears watered the seeds of her future. If she had fought back with insults, she would have been just like them. Her silence was her loudest weapon. Lesson 3. About the bystander. The village watched Adama suffer and did nothing. They were just as guilty as Lolo Ugo. We must learn to speak up. Silence in the face of evil is consent. Be the Obina in someone's life, not the silent crowd. Lesson 4. About divine timing. God's time is the best. It may seem long, it may seem impossible, but the God who sees the tear fall in the dark is preparing a table for you in the light. Your vindication is coming. We hope you enjoyed this story of Adama and her journey from the dustbin to the palace. These stories carry the wisdom of our ancestors to guide our feet today. As we tie the knot of this story, carry this wisdom in your heart. The stone that the builder refused has become the head cornerstone. Do not despise the days of little beginnings, and do not weep when the world mocks your empty hands. For destiny is like pregnancy. You can hide it for a while, but eventually it will show its face. Your shame is only manure for your fame, and the tears you water your pillow with tonight are the same water God is using to grow your harvest for tomorrow. Now we invite you to join this growing community of wisdom seekers. If Adama's journey touched your spirit, please click the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a tale. Share this video with your family and friends, send it to your WhatsApp groups, and let them know that hope is not lost. Let this story be the fire that warms your conversations this week. Until we meet again, remember, your story is not over yet.